What's new in CloudBees CI 2.375.3.5? On February 15th, 2023, CloudBees CI 2.375.3.5 was released. However, in the 2.375.3 family, there have been a few other releases as well, so we're going to take a look at all of the release notes for these releases. If you've never taken a look at the release notes for CloudBees CI before, let me show you how to get there. We're going to first start at docs.cloudbees.com. Under Documentation, we'll click on CloudBees CI, and on the documentation link, we'll go ahead and click on Release Notes. And here we're going to see the release notes for CloudBees CI. One thing that I want to call out is this important section. If you're going to be upgrading from an older version, let's say that we're upgrading from version 2.361.3.4, what I would need to do is to go through each of the release notes for the versions between this version and the version that we're going to be upgrading to, which in this case is going to be 2.375.3.5. That way we know all of the changes that have happened between the previous version that we're coming from, and also any of the changes that we might need to make going from that older version to this current version. Now, as I said earlier in the video, there have actually been a couple of versions released for the 2.375.3 release. There's a .5, which was released on February 15th. There was a .4 that was released on February 9th. And then the original one that happened on February 8th. So what we're going to do is we're first going to take a look at the .3 release that came out on February 8th, and then we'll go and take a look at the other versions for the .4 and the .5. Now, the big thing for this is in the .3, there was a new release of the Kubernetes client. What happened with that is the Kubernetes client that's used under the hood, which is the Fabric 8 client, was upgraded from the 5x line to the 6x line. However, that also means there are some changes that you might need to make. The bottom line is, if you are not explicitly using the YAML field under the advanced configuration, then basically there's no changes that you need to make. However, if you are using that YAML configuration, then you'll have to make sure that API version is set. If this does apply to you, then make sure that you read the Kubernetes migration v6 documentation to understand what this breaking change means to you. So let's go ahead and scroll down into the .3 release. We'll notice that we have release notes for both traditional and for modern cloud platforms. Let's focus first on the traditional, and then we'll go take a look at the changes for modern cloud platforms. You'll notice that there were no new features in this release. There was one new feature enhancement. There were a handful of resolved issues. There are actually 3 items that I want to call out in the resolve section. 2 of them are related to CloudBees Backup. The first one that I want to call out is that previously the CloudBees Backup plugin used an insecure SSH connection. Now what you're able to do is set up a key verification strategy for this SSH backup. Secondly, the backup jobs fail to run when created or updated when configured as code. Because backup jobs run in a special authentication for security reasons, if it was created as code, then the authentication checks failed. Well, at this point, now this has been resolved because you can set a save as user property. That way the job impersonates as that user. Finally, one more item that's related to configuration as code is if you had set up a cron trigger on a non-pipeline job, those used to fail. The way that you would work around that in the past is you would just go into the job and manually save it. Now, if you create that non-pipeline job through configuration as code with the cron configuration, now the cron will work as expected. If we scroll down to known issues, these are known issues from previous releases, so nothing new from this perspective. And much like in previous releases, there is a continuation of plugin removals from the CloudBees Assurance program. And in this release, there were 5 more plugins removed from CAP. If you have any questions about these plugins being removed from CAP, you can reach out to your CloudBees Customer Success Manager. And you'll also notice here in the red section, much like what we saw earlier in the video, the Kubernetes client upgrade to 6.x. If you have any technical questions around that, reach out to CloudBees support. Let's go take a quick look at the changes that were specific to Modern Cloud Platform. So we'll click on Full Release Notes for Modern Cloud Platform, and we'll take a look at the resolved issues at the very top section, and those are the ones that are specific to Modern Cloud Platform. The one that I specifically want to call out is, in some cases, incorrect error messages could be displayed when starting or stopping controllers from the Operations Center. That issue has now been resolved. As I was saying at the beginning of the video, we're talking about 2.375.3.5. We're looking right now at 3.3. So let's take a look at what came out in the .4 and the .5. So if we go back up to our top level, there were 2 security releases, one on February 9th and one on February 15th. Let's take a quick look at the release notes for traditional. The release notes here are also the same for modern cloud platform. If we take a look at this security advisory from February 9th, what we're going to see here is this is related to providing new container images for CloudBees CI. The reason why these images were published again after the .3 release is due to Git releases that are associated to 2 CVEs. If you're curious about what these CVEs were related to, you can take a look at the CVEs 2022 23.521 and 2022 41.903. And finally, if we go back and take a look at the release notes one more time and take a look at the release notes for .5, again, we're going to see another security release. If we take a look at the security advisory for .5, what we're going to see is that there were a number of plugins that were updated that had a variety of different security issues, some that are stored cross-site scripting and some that were cross-site scripting vulnerabilities. So again, the recommendation for this release, even though it's all based on 275.3, is that we recommend when you upgrade from whatever version you're running now, make sure you upgrade to the latest version, which as of February 15th is 2.375.3.5. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach out to us on Twitter at CloudBees. If this video was helpful to you, give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to CloudBees TV yet, why not? Take a moment, click on the subscribe button, and then ring that bell, and you'll be notified anytime there's new content available on CloudBees TV. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.